With the deal on Iran's nuclear program reaching a nervous endgame and multiple wars raging in the Middle East, an international deal on Iran's nuclear program has perhaps never been so important.
Our guest is Associate Dean at the Simon Wiesenthal Center. He has spent his life fighting Jewish and human rights causes on 5 continents. His editorials read around the world. It's a pleasure to welcome Rabbi Abraham Cooper back to MidPoint. Rabbi, thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, Ed, and happy holidays to everyone.
You also. A very happy holiday for this weekend as well. There is news today from the EU foreign policy chief that the basis for an agreement for a peaceful Iranian nuclear program and a lifting of sanctions against Iran has been reached. Does this embolden you, make you feel better, or does this frighten you?
Well, of course, they say devils will be in the details, but I was just looking at the body language of the Iranian foreign minister just now, and he looked pretty happy to me. From what initially we're looking at is no nuclear facility closed in Iran, and that all sanctions will come up, will be finished as soon as they, quote-unquote, fulfill their end of the bargain. So, you know, I have a call that the White House is going to be giving to Jewish leaders later today with the details. But I think right now it looks like the Iranians are pretty happy because they just want to get rid of those sanctions. And as many critics, including the Israeli Prime Minister, pointed out, this looks like it's going to be a clear path in X number of years for Iran to be able to make nuclear weapons and have the capacity to deliver them. So it's not just Israel tonight, but of course the entire Middle East neighborhood, all the Arab neighbors. If this happens, it'll spark off a nuclearization of the whole region, and just what we don't need to a region that's already, you know, on fire and raging.
Rabbi, there would seem to be a thinking in many people's eyes that what has happened here in Iran, the negotiations, and certainly a lot of what has happened, that many governments around the world these days simply do not have Israel's best interests at heart. And in many ways, I've even heard some people say that they don't seem to care if the nation of Israel lives or dies. Do you get that feeling?
Well, Ed, I'm not going to be that apocalyptic. I think that many of the Islamist terrorists have that kind of a worldview that the end is coming. Judaism teaches us, you know, to live the good life and deal with good people and do kindly to others. The big difference between the 1930s and 2015 is there is a state of Israel. There is a Jewish homeland, now home to the largest Jewish community in the world, over 6 million Jews, and that Israel can defend herself. If necessary, she'll do so alone, but I do not believe that Israel is without friends and without allies. And, you know, if we just even focus on the threat from Iran, many of Israel's Arab neighbors, including Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and others, they're as threatened as Israel is. So the sovereign state of Israel will defend herself and do so successfully, and it is a homeland, a spiritual homeland for all Jews, but also a place where we expect many more thousands of European Jews to restart their lives and look to the future, coming home to the land of Israel. So this is a very disconcerting time. We're very concerned about anti-Semitism on both sides of the Atlantic. The silence of our own Secretary of State and all the other foreign ministers, the P5 that were in Geneva, the silence when you heard the calls of death to America, when Israel's annihilation is, quote-unquote, non-negotiable from top Iranian officials. That silence, however, is deeply disturbing and will embolden more anti-Semitism and, God forbid, more acts of violence. And by the way, not just against Jews. You know, I'm just here finishing our reaction to the horror that took place, is taking place in Kenya today, when Christian students were called out and said, "Are you a Christian and or a Muslim?" And in Kenya, and if you were a Muslim, they were murdered on the spot. 70 people already dead. What we're looking here is not just the targeting of the Jewish people, but I think the targeting of, if you will, the Judeo-Christian ethic.
Indeed.
The idea of religious liberty. So It's a time for Jews over Passover and Christians in their holy days to really focus on what's important to us and to start building out more empowered alliances.
And we'll have to call that the last word because we are out of time, unfortunately, Rabbi. A very happy holiday to you and your family. Thank you so much for joining us.